TV fans, to our channel. Today is a fantastic, dramatic day to explore the dangerous and suspenseful world of Genoa. The shock of Sally's miscarriage could enrage Adam. Will Adam forgive Billy? Let's analyze the explosive, heartbreaking events that threaten to shatter the Newman and Abbott family forever. The emotional tension has never been higher, and the consequences will be unforgettable. The sterile, suffocating air of Genoa City Memorial Hospital becomes the breeding ground for a nightmare reborn. We begin with a twist that no one saw coming, a revelation that turns a medical tragedy into a sinister crime scene. The tragic loss of Sally Spectra's unborn child was not a devastating act of nature, nor was it a biological failure. It was a calculated consequence of corporate greed, petty vengeance, and emotional instability. When the heart-wrenching flatline echoed through the intensive care unit, signaling that Sally had miscarried her second child, Adam Newman's world did not just crumble, it violently, irreparably imploded. The ghost of baby Ava Hope, the daughter they had already mourned in agonizing grief, resurrected in that cold hospital room, merging seamlessly with this fresh, unbearable agony. But the true horror emerged when the dust settled, and the whispers of the truth began to echo through the corridors. This was no tragic medical anomaly. This was the direct, undeniable result of a vicious, high-stakes physical and psychological altercation orchestrated by the ruthless Audra Charles and exacerbated by the pathetic, spiraling weakness of Billy Abbott. For months, Adam Newman had tried to play by the rules. He had tried to be the reformed son, the dedicated father to Connor, the loyal partner to Chelsea Lawson, and the fiercely protective co-parent to Sally's unborn child. But as he stood outside that hospital room, watching the woman he once loved and perhaps still loves with a dark, unbreakable intensity weep for another lost soul, the reformed Adam Newman died a silent death. In his place, a terrifying, familiar entity clawed its way to the surface. Spider, the ruthless, lawless, and utterly remorseless persona born in the neon-lit, blood-soaked underworld of Las Vegas, awakened from his prolonged slumber. Adam no longer cared about Victor Newman's legacy. He no longer cared about the fragile peace of Genoa City, and he certainly no longer cared about the boundaries of the law. The only currency that mattered to him now was blood, and Spider was ready to collect his dues with maximum interest. To understand the sheer magnitude of Adam's impending, apocalyptic wrath, we must dissect the catastrophic altercation that triggered this tragedy. Audra Charles, a woman whose corporate ambition knows absolutely no moral boundaries, had been systematically manipulating the Genoa City chessboard. Enraged by her shifting dynamics with Newman Media and her complex, toxic entanglements, she deliberately cornered Sally. Audra intended to use psychological warfare, leveraging Billy Abbott's recent erratic behavior and the Chancellor Winter's lawsuit to push Sally to the psychological brink. But the confrontation escalated far beyond sharp words. Billy, already unraveling from the explosive revelation that he is not John Abbott's biological son, interjected with his trademark impulsivity and emotional fragility. The ensuing shouting match, the physical blocking of Sally's exit, and the intense, suffocating pressure caused Sally to collapse in agonizing pain. Billy's weakness and Audra's malice were the twin blades that severed the life of an innocent child. Adam did not immediately scream or throw punches when he learned the details of the altercation. Spider operates with a cold, terrifying precision that is far more dangerous than blind rage. Instead of calling the Genoa City Police Department or relying on Detective James Burrow, Adam initiated his own clandestine, highly illegal investigation. Tapping into the dark web resources he cultivated during his Vegas exile and utilizing his unparalleled, devious intellect, Adam hacked into the security feeds of the building where the confrontation occurred. He recovered deleted audio files, intercepted encrypted text messages between Audra and her corporate cronies, and pieced together the undeniable, sickening truth. Audra had intentionally orchestrated the high-stress environment. She knew Sally was experiencing a high-risk pregnancy, yet she deliberately manufactured a scenario designed to induce maximum psychological terror. It was a calculated hit, dressed up as a tragic accident. Armed with this irrefutable, damning evidence, Adam bypassed the justice system entirely. The law would only offer Audra a slap on the wrist or a minor civil suit. Spider demanded her very soul. The psychological torture of Audra Charles began with subtle, maddening anomalies designed to break her sanity. Audra would return to her luxurious Genoa City Athletic Club suite, to find the temperature drop to freezing, her mirrors fogged with cryptic, terrifying messages written in the condensation. Her personal, highly secured phone began ringing at all hours of the night, playing nothing but the faint, echoing sound of a baby's heartbeat monitor flatlining. Audra, a woman who prided herself on her unbreakable composure and icy demeanor, found herself constantly looking over her shoulder, jumping at shadows, and descending into a state of sheer, unadulterated panic. But Spider's vengeance was not limited to cheap parlor tricks and psychological horror. He aimed to dismantle the very foundation of Audra's existence, her wealth, and her corporate power. Utilizing a network of underground hackers and offshore shell companies, Adam systematically infiltrated Audra's expansive financial portfolio. Within a matter of days, her lucrative offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands were drained to absolute zero. The funds funneled into untraceable cryptocurrency wallets scattered across the globe. Her stock options in Spectra Charles and other ventures were shorted and liquidated with ruthless efficiency. Adam even manipulated the digital ledgers to make it appear as though Audra had been embezzling massive funds from Victor Newman himself, effectively putting a massive lethal target on her back from the Newman patriarch. Audra awoke one morning to find her credit cards declined, her bank accounts frozen, and her pristine reputation reduced to ashes. The sheer velocity and brutality of her ruin left Audra gasping for air, entirely isolated from the elite world she once commanded. She tried to reach out to her former allies, to Tucker McCall, to anyone who could throw her a financial or legal lifeline, but Adam had already intercepted her communications and poisoned her network. He isolated her entirely, trapping her in a gilded cage of her own making. The psychological pressure mounted until Audra was a trembling, paranoid shell of the fierce corporate shark she once was. Adam finally stepped out of the shadows, cornering her in the dimly lit, echoing underground parking garage of the GCAC. He didn't lay a single hand on her. He simply whispered the exact details of what he had done, promising her that this was only the beginning and that she would spend the rest of her miserable life looking over her shoulder, penniless, hunted, and entirely alone. With Audra effectively neutralized and broken beyond repair, Adam turned his lethal, unwavering gaze toward the other architect of his misery, Billy Abbott. Billy's culpability was different from Audra's, but in Adam's eyes, it was equally, if not more, unforgivable. Billy had promised to protect Sally. He had paraded himself as the superior man, the devoted fiancé who would provide a safe, stable environment for Sally and the baby, constantly judging Adam's past mistakes. Yet, when the absolute moment of truth arrived, Billy's inherent weakness, his inability to control his own spiraling emotions regarding the Jill Abbott paternity scandal and the Chancellor lawsuit, made him a frantic, destructive force. Billy's lack of emotional control had directly contributed to the lethal stress that killed Adam's child. Adam knew perfectly well that Billy was already standing on the precipice of total financial and personal ruin. Lily Winters was currently suing him for millions, threatening to unseal his highly sensitive psychiatric records and push for house arrest after his violent, destructive meltdown in the CEO office. Jack Abbott, devastated by the paternity lie, had completely withdrawn his brotherly support. Billy was an isolated, wounded animal, and Spider thrives on the metallic scent of blood. Adam began a systematic, agonizing campaign of psychological warfare against Billy, exploiting every single one of his historical insecurities and traumas. He arranged for Billy to receive anonymous, torturous deliveries at his home, a tiny pair of baby shoes, a replica of Delia's favorite toy, and forged legal documents detailing the exact, gruesome timeline of Sally's miscarriage, forcing Billy to relive his failures continuously. The suffocating tension between the two men finally erupted into a bloody, visceral, and highly public war. Billy, driven completely mad by grief, overwhelming guilt, and Adam's relentless, invisible torment, confronted Adam at society. The verbal confrontation quickly and violently turned physical. Years of deep-seated hatred, blinding jealousy, and mutual destruction culminated in a brutal, bare-knuckle brawl that left the upscale restaurant in absolute ruins. But Adam was not fighting with the emotional desperation and frantic energy of Billy Abbott. He was fighting with the cold, calculated lethality of Spider. He systematically dismantled Billy, both physically and verbally, whispering the harsh, unforgiving truth into Billy's ear between blows, that Billy was a curse to every woman he loved, a monumental failure of a father, and the true, undeniable reason Sally was currently weeping in a sterile hospital bed. The catastrophic fallout of this apocalyptic vendetta rippled through the entirety of Genoa City, leaving massive collateral damage in its wake. Chelsea Lawson watched in absolute, paralyzed horror as the man she loved regressed into the darkest, most dangerous version of himself. She tearfully pleaded with Adam to stop, warning him that his unquenchable quest for vengeance would ultimately consume his soul and destroy their fragile family unit with Connor. But Adam was entirely deaf to her pleas, consumed by the darkness. Victor Newman, observing the carnage from his fortified ranch, felt a chilling, complex mixture of pride and alarm. He recognized the ruthless, brilliant efficiency of Spider's tactics against Audra, but he also knew that an uncontrolled, rogue Adam was a massive danger to the entire Newman empire. Victor began quietly mobilizing his elite security forces, preparing to intervene with extreme prejudice if Adam's bloody war against Billy threatened to spill over into Newman Enterprises. Meanwhile, Sally Spectra remained in the hospital, physically recovering but emotionally shattered into a million jagged pieces. As she slowly pieced together the events that led to her miscarriage, and as the whispers of Adam's crusade reached her ears, she realized the terrifying extent of his retaliation. Part of her, the dark, ambitious part that had originally fallen in love with Adam's intensity, felt a twisted, undeniable sense of vindication seeing Audra and Billy pay for their reckless actions. But another, deeper part of her was utterly terrified. She saw the monster that Adam had become, the relentless, cold-blooded predator who would gladly burn the world to ashes to avenge their child. Sally realized with a sinking heart that she was the epicenter of a catastrophic war, a war that threatened to consume the only men who had ever truly loved her. Adam's vengeance reached its terrifying, masterful climax when he orchestrated a brilliant scenario designed to pit Billy and Audra against each other in a fight to the death. Knowing that a desperate, penniless Audra was frantically looking for a scapegoat to regain her stolen assets, Adam leaked perfectly fabricated evidence suggesting that Billy was the one who had drained her offshore accounts, using the chaos of the Chancellor lawsuit as a brilliant cover. Audra, blinded by panic, fury, and a thirst for survival, took the bait hook, line, and sinker. She publicly confronted Billy, leading to a highly publicized, catastrophic showdown that Adam watched with a cold smile from the shadows. The two architects of Sally's tragedy were now tearing each other apart, their reputations, their finances, and their sanity completely obliterated by the invisible, masterful hand of Spider. As we look toward the next highly anticipated episode, the stage is perfectly set for a surprising, yet entirely logical twist that will leave viewers breathless. Adam's flawless execution of his revenge plot has left him feeling invincible, but Spider's supreme arrogance is always his ultimate, tragic downfall. The prediction is this: in his relentless, blinding pursuit to destroy Billy, Adam will inadvertently leave a microscopic digital footprint linking him to the massive financial theft of Audra's assets. However, instead of taking the fall, Adam will brilliantly and ruthlessly frame Billy Abbott for the entire cyber heist. The Genoa City Police Department, already investigating Billy for his violent outburst at Chancellor, will arrest Billy not just for corporate sabotage, but for the grand larceny and total destruction of Audra Charles. Adam will stand victorious, having eliminated both his enemies in one masterful stroke, but his dark triumph will cost him the one thing he truly desires, the love and trust of Sally Spectra, who will finally see the irredeemable monster lurking beneath the surface, realizing that the man she mourns with is the very devil himself.